Hello, Casey, and welcome to another segment with Dr. Simphiwe Rens. Dr. Simphiwe Rens, it's a pleasure to have you with us again. How are you doing?
I'm doing very, very well, Apostle Uncle Michael. I absolutely enjoy saying that. I'm doing so well. How are you this afternoon?
I'm kept by grace. It's great to have you back. And I must say, Dr. Simphiwe sounds so natural on the tongue. And it's such a pleasure and a privilege to be addressing you like that. Let's dive into it. We're about to announce the availability of a book that issued from these interviews, Dr. Simphiwe, Pursuing My Dream. That book is available in ebook format from tomorrow, and we are taking pre-orders for print copies. And I want us to dive into it because part of what we spoke about earlier, and that's why we're starting here, because this book is addressing a particular narrative. You were talking about the danger of a single narrative, the danger of a single narrative. Your book is coming in to create an alternative narrative for Koffiefontein. Quickly talk to us about that narrative.
Oh, my goodness. It's actually so great to be able to reflect on that and now have something solid and tangible to show in terms of what I meant when I brought up the idea of the danger of a single narrative. So readers will find this in part A. Sounds so good to say that. In part A of the book, readers will find the part where I speak about the danger of a single narrative. I remember referring to a brilliant West African author who spoke about the danger of a single narrative where, and I used the media as an example, where Western global media would oftentimes focus on a very single narrative about Africa and Africans and Africanness that oftentimes wasn't very glowing. And it included things like poverty-stricken, just war-ridden and so forth, just negative narratives about Africa, Africans and so forth. And I said that often happened so that those global American, Euro-American companies could still position themselves as saviors of this messed up, quote unquote, Africa. And that was one of the dangers of a single narrative. So I tried relating that to my context, my experience with Koffiefontein, where I grew up and spent a significant time of my formative years, where there's also the danger of a single narrative about our beloved Koffiefontein, where you have national media oftentimes rushing down all the way for hours and hours from the centers like Johannesburg to go to Koffiefontein to cover the news only when it's negative news. What that does is that it creates a perception that that's the only narrative about Koffiefontein, about that context, about that community, that it's just this negative, this town with a lot of negativity and so on, which is a dangerous thing. So I speak a little bit in the book about how we can go about practically changing that single narrative by introducing positive narratives about the town. And I'm so glad that you went about to create this book. Really grateful for you. It's one of those tangible things where you can literally have evidence of other alternative positive narratives about our beloved Koffiefontein.
Well said. And I would like us to talk about how the book, Dr. Simphiwe, Pursuing My Dream, helps us to create that positive narrative when we come back.